I was in Missouri and I got chased by three dogs the day before, which is another weird
Ooh,
fact. Missouri doesn't have like dog catchers or animal control, so there's more
ooh,
wild dogs running around. So I stop and there's a dog. I'm in the middle of a swamp, and I stop and there's a dog in front. I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I take out my tripod and I'm
all
like,
right.
so in case I have to fight the dog off. And then like, a car comes by. So I stop the car. I'm like, can I ride with you so that dog doesn't come? They're like, yeah, sure. So I start pedaling. In the minute and a half that I waited for the car, my back tire had gone completely flat. So I'm riding on this
Ooh,
flat tire trying to get away from this dog and get around the corner. And I get far enough and that they drive off. And then the grass around the road is so high, I can't flip my bike over to change the tire. So I had to flip it over in the middle of the road, and I'm doing it like as fast as I can in like the Missouri humidity.
hello, Teddy. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Beautiful, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Teddy, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, my man, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, Teddy, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, Teddy, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. Say some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, my man, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry, you know. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, my man, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Daddy. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely
Ooh.
experience that day, and I was so, so excited. Here is my point, Daddy. Yeah, the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the incredible Teddy that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your journey, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering your solutions. These stuffs are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Teddy is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to be selfish, and even with the audience. And here we had a day with the amazing Teddy. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself, my man. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, my man.
And thank you for having me on. It's been great.
Awesome, my man.
Oh.
Beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today, Teddy, for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Teddy, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness, ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Teddy on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in a situation in a world where knowledge is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, high opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Daddy, that our conversation It's going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Teddy got here. Then, afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Teddy, over to you.
Awesome. So yeah, my name's Teddy and I rode my bike 3,700 miles, over 3,700 miles from San Francisco to Washington D.C. To promote free speech, justice, education, and unity. And the reason I did that is because of the current administration in the U.S. I was worried about what was happening in early March, which was a lot of the college students were getting arrested. A lot of immigrants were not getting due process who deserved it, and then there was a lot of misinformation flying around. So that's why I picked out these four rights, and I called the whole bike ride "Ride for Rights." So the four are free speech, and it's important for democracy. So free speech, so you know and you can tell people what you need, what your politicians, what you're going through freely so they know what the needs of the public are. Justice to protect your free speech. You need education so you know what actually benefits your life and how to solve problems correctly. And then unity's more of a concept idea of when you're promoting something or doing something, it should be for the benefit of yourself or the benefit of others. There shouldn't be this agenda to just screw over other people, which we're seeing more and more in America. So that's why I picked those rights. I started planning in early March when I got the idea in my head. I knew I wanted to do some kind of protest, but I wanted it to be different. And also, I live in northern New Mexico, which is very dark blue. So I figured doing something here would be more preaching to the choir. So I was like, oh, maybe I could do like a long walk or a run. I like running. I was like, well, if I go across the country, that would be cool. I was like, well, running, I'd blow out my knees. That would take forever. But I was like, maybe I could bike. And once I got that in my head, I was like, I started routing day by day. I was like, where do I start? I was like, oh, I could start at the Golden Gate Bridge. That would be kind of iconic. And I did. It was like day by day. And as I got farther and farther, I was like, yeah, I think I could do this. I think I could figure this out. So yeah, how it worked is, um, I had a schedule online and you could join me if you wanted to. And that got to be a lot, just logistically. So what I ended up doing is I would do short rides in major cities. So anybody of any level that had a bicycle or something could join and do the 1 day ride to protest. And yeah, I made it across the country. It was incredibly difficult. It was really hard. I had no experience doing it's called the sport's a niche sport called bike packing, where you basically put all your bags on your bike. So I had a gravel bike, which I bought like 2 weeks before the trip. And I had put a rack on the back. A gravel bike, by the way, is like a hybrid between a mountain and a road bike. So it's looks like a road bike, but it's much more stable. So you can bounce around on some trails a little bit there. But yeah, I had two bags attached to the back of the bike. I had a bag on front, and then I had a frame bag in the middle. And in addition, I had a tent that I put on top of the back rack and a sleeping pad that I wrapped around the front bag too. So it was around 35 to 45 pounds. I switched gear a lot, but it was an experience. It was a lot of difficulties. I got stuck a lot of times. I had no experience in bike packing. I'm not a big camper. I don't do social media, and I did social media for this. I was like calling newspapers to try to get more publicity for it and stuff like that. And all this was just learning by doing, and it was insane. So,
Wow, learning by doing. And again, the passion was the one, feeling your energy and all. And the fact that your reason for doing it was so clear. Number one, for
mhm,
free speech, which is very
yeah.
important for democracy and education, so that folks can know what is good for them and how to solve problems correctly. And lastly, unity, because we live in a world where folks are doing things just to, help themselves and more like affect others. Wow,
Mhm,
this is a beautiful one,
yeah.
my man. And I love the
Thank
fact
you.
that, yeah, you didn't go about it the conventional way. You were so unique while doing it, and that's a beautiful one. So I'm curious about this, all right? So how did you first get into cycling?
So I started doing triathlon. I'm in my late 30s now. I started doing triathlons in my early 20s. When I was in high school, that was when like Lance Armstrong became big before everybody knew what a fraud he was. So I got really into watching cycling from then. But I did Ironmans in my early 20s, which is 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, 26-mile marathon run. And I wasn't fast. I wasn't winning. I was the guy that came in like after dark that's like hobbling in, but I was just happy to finish and stuff like that. And I've always liked endurance sports. I'm definitely more of a runner. And cycling's almost a weird one for me because I do like mountain biking, but as far as the triathlon, I'm actually most talented at swimming, which is odd. So I picked my third best event in three events to do across the country. But yeah, I've always been attracted to endurance sports. I think it's mentally relaxing for me. It keeps me really centered, I feel like, when I'm being active and exercising, especially because I have my normal job's just a desk job that you sit at all day. So and I think it's more important to be active. But yeah, biking has been, I always love watching it. I always think it's fun. I do a lot of mountain biking around here. I live in the Rocky Mountains, which is great. And it's this was the first time I used it for something more than pers for fun basically. So it was an interesting experience. So
Wow, I got that. I know it is interesting, but I know some challenges will also come along the way. So how were you able to overcome those challenges or pushbacks, you know?
a lot of the challenges came back through me just being, again, learning through mistakes, just not knowing. So I got to California, and my first big challenge was that the mailing company screwed up when they sent the bike. So the bike didn't get sent till I was basically on the plane. It was supposed to come a week earlier. So luckily I was staying with my friend for the first week, and I had to use his just, commuter bike where I'd take the train from Sacramento, ride my bike from that train station to the next train station, and then go back to his house. And that's what I ended up doing for the first week to get all the legs done until my bike showed up. The problem was, since I put this together so quickly, I got in a bad car accident decades ago, and I've had neck problems. So when you're on the bike and you're holding it, it puts pressure on your back and your neck. And I didn't have enough testing on that gravel bike, so my whole right arm was going numb for a while until I could get the bike fitted. So there's fittings on the front handlebar you can get lengthened and spacers and stuff like that to make sure you're comfortable. So basically, I was pinching a nerve on the bike, and since I had left, this wouldn't have been a problem if the bike showed up on time because there's plenty of places in San Francisco and Northern California to do it. But once I got the bike, I was already headed up to Lake Tahoe and through Nevada. So I actually didn't get that fixed till Grand Junction. So I had to go through a couple states till I found a bike shop that had the parts I needed, which was wild. But yeah, that whole California, I was going up the Sierra Nevadas. I was riding with way too much gear because I filmed the whole thing. I'd put it all on YouTube as well as all the camping gear. So I had to drop some stuff off. I injured my hamstring, which was kind of a nagging injury the whole time. And I got completely snowed in the second week. So I ended up having to, yeah, had to take an X-ray in a town called Pollock Pines in California. And then I was supposed to go over to Lake Tahoe, and I ended up in a town called Khyber, which I don't know if any of your viewers would know it. There's essentially a gas station, a restaurant, and a hotel, and that's the only thing in that town. Um, so yeah, but I ended up that day I got up after Khyber, I got up to the ski resort, and I'm supposed to go down this hill, and I turned the corner. I'm like, finally, my hamstring's killing me. I'm exhausted. I'm like, all right, time to go down. And I turn the corner to go down, and there's a foot of snow right in front of me on the road. I'm like, oh crap. So I had to go back slightly uphill, go over and come down on, I believe, Route 50, which is not a safe route for bikes at all. There's no bike lane. I think the speed limit's 55 on there. And that was pretty terrifying. So that was definitely a wake up moment of when when the trip started.
Oh, that must have been so tough on you. Man,
Yeah.
I tell you,
So
thank you for sharing that. Because you didn't allow the situation to, dictate your motive or your moves. You kept on going. And that's a beautiful one. So did you have conversation with people along the way?
I tried to talk I tried to talk to everybody I could along the way. So and that turned out to be very helpful because where you go, what I learned is based on where you are in the country, you definitely receive news differently. So I talked to people, very liberal people, to people wearing MAGA hats, to anybody in between. to get a vibe of like what's going on. And I got a fair amount of respect from everybody. I think not everybody agreed with me, obviously, but they when they knew what I was doing, they respected the level of effort I was putting in. And I believe there's a very romantic idea of like taking time off of work and riding a bike across the country. Like when people hear that, they think like, man, I wish I was young enough to do that, or I wish I had time to do that. Like everybody had a ton of questions for me and that stuff. And that got me in a lot of good conversations about just what was happening. But I will say there's a lot of different stuff that you get. So I was exposed to different types of propaganda around different states. So the important thing is if you're liberal, the propaganda you're getting is built around and spun to make you feel angry and upset and anxiety. Whereas if you're a conservative person, the propaganda that you're getting is to make you feel either um, like that the liberals are making either too big a deal about this or fear. And that's what I think the core is of why the country's splitting apart is they're getting the news they're receiving is only news that will be or news that can be spun to give those two emotions to those groups of people. And I thought that was fascinating. So
I tell you, very, very fascinating. Wow. Okay, so let's go back to the gear aspect in case we have some folks who are listening who are also riders. So, what gears would you recommend for new riders?
so it's the kind of the setup for the bike. It's entirely dependent on you. Some people like to ride in a higher gear. I just again I put this together so fast. I rode the factory model gears they had. I rode Kona Libre, which is kind of like their lower model gravel bike. Um, but the one thing you do need is now bike seats. I had to change my bike seat twice. Um, the factory seats are pretty bad. I had to switch that seat out for a different one, and then I rode that up the Sierras when I got the bike, and my lower back was hurting, so I switched that to a different seat when I hit Carson City, Nevada, and that worked out well. I got commented from a lot of people in Colorado that were surprised I was riding gears that rode that high. Usually they put a different sprocket in that you can ride a little bit lower gears than I was doing. Other than that, there's a lot of like small things you can do with the bike. You usually have to carry I carried an extra chain. The chains stretch out pretty over time. So I did change it once to make sure I didn't break the chain as well. One of the bearings, once I finished the ride, one of the bearings was completely like worn out on the back wheel, so that I changed that out. Um, the weird thing I didn't expect is, so I had pretty decent tires put on, and I was going down the Sierras, and one of the things I didn't expect is I have a frame bag in the middle, and when the wind hits that, it acts like a sail. So that added a level of where it wanted to push me off the road sometimes. So that was a problem. So I upgraded to high-end tires in Nevada, which grip better, and they were good. The one thing I didn't know though, which was surprising to me, is I had most of the gears weighted in the back, um, which is weird. Usually bikes are evenly weighted. So when I got to Kansas, I realized my back tire had completely worn out, where my front tire was okay. And that's something again I never would have thought of or knew beforehand. Of like you need to rotate your tires like you do a car if you're not going to ride bike, do bike packing with even weight. Um, but yeah, then I switched tires in the middle of Kansas. It was a bike shop slash putt putt course slash driving range slash bar slash concert venue. It was like a very small town where like this was everything for them. So they only had one type of tire that fit my bike. That wasn't too great. So I ended up riding that to Lawrence, Kansas, where Kansas State is, if anybody's curious. And they had more stuff I could get replaced. I'm trying to think if there's anything else weird. The hardest thing to do, and it's harder than riding, is changing a tire. It's so annoying when you have to like yank that on and off. So I had one. The first one wasn't too bad as far as what became, but I screwed up and it was kind of a disaster. I was in eastern Colorado. I was in the middle of the road. Luckily, there was a house, and I looked down. I'm like, wow, this feels a little bouncy in the back. Look down, and I can see like the sealant, which you put in the tire to make sure if any
Mm.
holes get popped, it seals, was just like spurting out, and it went flat within
Wow.
like 100, 200 feet. So luckily, there's a late. I was by a house and there was a lady cutting the grass, and she's like, "You can, you can change your tire in my yard. You don't have to do it in like the side of the road." So that was
Mm.
nice, and she gave me water. But I screwed up the cartridges. So you have these CO2 cartridges that you slam um into the new tube you put in. It fills it up immediately. But if you don't seal it right, it screws up. So I didn't seal it right, and I had to uh, get to Stratton, which was the next town a few miles away. And actually, luckily, I had a buddy in Denver who brought me a couple of cartridges because it was such a small town. There was no supplies there. So, but I will say that the hardest experience I had, I was in Missouri and I got chased by three dogs the day before, which is another weird
Ooh.
fact. Yeah, Missouri doesn't have like dog catchers or animal control. So there's more
Ooh.
wild dogs running around. Yeah. So I stop and there's a dog. I'm in the middle, pretty much in the middle of the swamp, and I stop and there's a dog in front. I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I take out my tripod and I'm
All
like,
right.
so in case I have to fight the dog off. And then luckily a car comes by. So I stop the car. I'm like, can I ride with you so that dog doesn't come? They're like, yeah, sure. So I start pedaling, and
Uh,
in the minute and a half that I waited for the car, my back tire had gone completely flat. So I'm riding on this
ooh.
flat tire trying to get away from this dog and get around the corner. And I get far enough, and that they drive off. And then the grass around the road is so high, I can't flip my bike over to change the tire. So I had to flip it over in the middle of the road, and I'm doing it like as fast as I can in like the Missouri humidity. And it was, stuff like that is you never know what's gonna happen or what on
You
any
never
day.
know, I
Yeah,
tell you.
yeah,
Ooh. Sorry about the dogs,
yeah,
my man.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
again,
yeah.
you see, it's just so beautiful to listen to you speak because you learned all of these things by simply doing. And now you're so experienced to the point where even others are beginning to learn from you. Isn't that beautiful? That's amazing.
It is.
I tell you, my
It,
man. I tell you.
it is. It is. It's wild because I was thinking about that because to me, I started as a novice, and in my head, I was always a novice. At some point, I was like, I've ridden like 2,200 miles now. Like, I'm probably like people like probably would ask me for information on this stuff, and I did learn a ton, but it's wild to I've never put something together this fast and executed it at this level, and that's
Amazing.
wild. So, but yeah,
Amazing, my man. You did great. So finally, all
thank you.
right, what advice do you have? Yeah, what advice do you have for someone who is just starting their first bike parking trip?
Practice more than I did. So show up show up in shape, which I did not do, but get practice with all your gear. So you're comfortable with all your gear. It's a good weight that you can handle. Know what distance you're going, and then make sure you have if you're going into the wild or deep, make sure you have a satellite phone so you can call for help. Um, and what else? Make sure no, make sure yeah, again, train so you know how much water you need and food on the way there too. So just more preparation. Do more preparation than I did. So
So, my man, beautiful, and I got that. So, to bring us to an end, Teddy, what will you for folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about the beautiful stuff you're doing, or even ask you questions? How can that be possible?
so I have a website called rideforrights.com, and it's with the number 4. And then also if you search me on YouTube, you can see all the days I rode. I will be doing a video about where I talk about all the political stuff I learned during the ride, about how each state receives news differently. I'm going way into depth in that. And then after that, I'll do some tutorial videos about how to do bike packing, and if you too want to ride across the country, how you could do that. And then also I'm on Blue Sky, Reddit, and Instagram again with Ride for Rights as well. So
So, awesome, my man, beautiful. And thank you for all of that. So, that's going to be the end of the show, Teddy. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot, man. Thank you.
thank you so much.